Hello and welcome to Motivated Learning, presented by Visual Learning Solutions. I am your host, Buddy Broyles. Motivated Learning is a program created for the education and learning design community to raise awareness about the people and the reason for quality professional educational training. I am excited to continue Season 2, which is available on both LinkedIn Live and Facebook on Visual Learning Solutions pages. I'm also very excited to welcome Derek Luebbe, CEO and founder of Huddle Up Learning. Huddle Up Learning aims to move online learning beyond the passive video and quiz model into a solutions-focused model where users learn by sharing solutions and providing quality feedback. Derek, welcome to the show, sir. How are you today?
I'm great, Buddy. Thanks for having me.
Well, let's kick off by telling our audience a little bit about your history. What brought you to where you are now?
Sure. I am a 25-year veteran of the classroom in the K-12 education world. Actually, I've been in international education my whole life, so American accredited schools overseas. I'm actually speaking to you today from India, where my wife works. But it was about a year and a half ago today, that I set forth on a little bit of a different venture and began working with a team to develop Huddle Up Learning. And, I've taken kind of my education roots and hopefully been able to apply them in that endeavor going forward.
So let's talk about your goals. I mean, we'll do a deeper dive into Huddle Up later, but, personally, as an educator, as a professional, what are your goals currently?
Sure. Coming through schools, and I would say I was really lucky to come through the international school world where we have some fantastic teachers, and you have a lot of freedom too. As both a teacher, I had about 20 years or 18 years as a principal, and then my last 4, I was the head of school at the Shanghai Community International School. And throughout that process, you really start to define kind of who you are and what are your goals, of course. And in the beginning, for sure, it was to make an impact on the school community, to make sure that we're giving the students that we serve and the families that we serve the very best that we can in terms of preparing them, for today and tomorrow. And those involve some deep discussions with faculty members and, kind of a lot of soul searching, because of course, as you probably know, we do in schools is always so well aligned to reality or even to relevancy sometimes. And so, as my career continued, it became just much more of a passion in me, started to come forward on, why do we do what we do? How are we preparing students for tomorrow? What are the skills of tomorrow that they need? And kind of where are we meeting the mark and where are we missing the mark? And that always really motivated me, and frankly, sometimes frustrated me at times too. I can remember many vivid experiences, and I'm sure every professional has them, where they're sitting in conferences and workshops, listening to incredibly intelligent people, and everyone's nodding their head, but at the same time, we know that it's really difficult to move the needle, and you're kind of hearing those same calls for action, and those same frustrations and those same mantras coming through again and again. And it starts to resonate, at least with me it did, and it really made me realize the importance of what we're doing and how hopefully I can take some action to make a difference there.
Well, I mean, it certainly speaks to your motivation for why you're doing what you do and why you created Huddle Up. So let's switch to Huddle Up and tell me what makes Huddle Up different for your customers and those you serve.
Sure. I mean, we're very much a startup, so I don't want to, get too far ahead of ourselves. We just launched in July. But what's different, I'm coming, as I said, as an educator. That's where my heart lies. Pedagogy, how are we delivering instruction? And the biggest difference that I saw, and one of the most frustrating things I see, whether it's online or face-to-face, is that so much of our instruction is still focused on kind of rote, recall, superficial learning. That's certainly assisted or even emphasized by the types of online platforms we use. Today, whether it's training in the workplace, whether it's in schools, they start from the premise of, here's a place where you can share resources with people, and if you're lucky, you have kind of an interactive, kind of superficial quiz you might be able to take to try to assess each learner's understanding. But there's just so much more, as I said before, to the skills that we need in the world, that I actually think we're sometimes using technology and we're hindered by it because we're starting. The starting point for our process is a platform like that, where kind of the goal is superficial learning, and then it's up to the individual instructor or trainer or teacher to take that and make it more meaningful. And so I think we're starting kind of two steps behind sometimes, just because of the environment that we're interacting in. And so what I really wanted to get at are, nothing revolutionary, but it's the same thing we hear in those workshops. It's the same thing you hear about training, is hands-on, collaborative learning, solution-focused learning. And so what we've tried with Huddle Up and what we've built and just are rolling out is, a platform where you can do the superficial learning. We need a place where you can share resources, where people can learn, and where you can assess individual learners. But the premise of the site, it's designed from its very beginning to allow learners to share solutions to the actual work that they need to do. So, and then we leverage the interactive feedback. We have 20 different solutions in the middle of this platform. It's not 20 different quizzes, in which case I really don't care what you put on your quiz, buddy. I'm probably not going to learn much from your quiz because I took the same quiz. And so, but when we have 20 unique solutions, we can really leverage and learn from and with one another, because we're seeing other people's solutions. One, that's an eye-opener. We're getting to evaluate those solutions with qualitative and quantitative feedback, so that each learner, or each rater, and each recipient gets just a wealth of data from that process. And then also you get to see, how does your evaluation as a person of other people's work, how consistent is that with the way the rest of your peers are viewing that specific piece of work? So there's a whole host of data that it can unlock when we move to a solutions-focused model. It really opens up a much more meaningful way to collaborate online, because we really do want to help each other. We want to dig into each other, and we want to learn, hey, why did you solve it like this? And how what can I take away from your solution that might be helpful for mine? In a nutshell, we've designed the platform for that purpose.
Let's talk about the impact that might have on training, onboarding, and professional development.
Yeah, I can. We're in very early stages, so as I said, I don't want to jump ahead, but I can just speak from anecdotal, feedback I'm getting from early users, and of course, just personal feedback that we all probably get in our life when we do activities like that in person or with a group. In that, immediately you can see kind of a relevance. You don't really have to ask, why am I reading this? Why am I learning this? The challenge that you're trying to solve is crystal clear. It's put in front of you online. So if you want to read a textbook, or if you want to read a training manual in order to complete this challenge, great, but you don't need to. The proof will be in the pudding. How well did you complete the challenge? I mean, I'll give you a silly analogy, and we'll maybe use, podcasting. You could teach a course on podcasting and give me a quiz, and maybe I'd do well on the quiz and maybe not. And you'd probably supply me with a lot of great best practice resources to help me learn how to host a podcast. But ultimately, I think the thing that's going to help me learn the best is for me to try to host a podcast for, 2 or 3 minutes of snippets. And if I could learn and see how you do it for 2 or 3 minutes, and see how 20 or 30 or 50 other people do it, and glean feedback from those people, I think we're going to walk away with a much more meaningful and relevant experience for every learner, because they know, as I said, the proof is in the pudding. It's what can you do with what you know. It's not just kind of what do you know. Right.
I think it's really important because now you're creating a platform that kind of takes us back to somewhat of an engaged instructor-led training, but but everybody gets a chance to practice in front of everyone else, learn by doing, learn in front of others, get that feedback, the quantitative and qualitative feedback, but not necessarily in person in a platform. Which is important, especially now. So let's talk about how HuddleUp can be used in COVID, in our blended learning world, where we need both the asynchronous and the synchronous learning. I mean, it's not going away. This is now and future.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, the asynchronous and the synchronous, because truth be told, my hand on the heart, I created this for an educational purpose when I first started, about 2 years ago, 3 years ago. But the implications are far beyond schools. It's a problem that exists everywhere, this kind of superficial learning. And more importantly, with COVID, as you said, we need ways to collaborate and learn both asynchronously and synchronously. And one of the big benefits, I think, or one of the interesting things that we're finding is how it frees up face-to-face meetings. We're all in Zoom meetings. We can call that face-to-face. I think in today's world, that does almost qualify for face-to-face, or face-to-face, truly face-to-face in person. And hopefully, with HuddleUp, we have a way to support that and supplement that process, because we allow space and time for each learner to kind of, collect their thoughts, to share their ideas, to have time and space on a personal level to maybe give feedback to the ideas that are out there. And so when we are meeting face to face, it's not an information flow of maybe the boss or the instructor, being kind of the sage on the stage, is one of the sayings that, floats around the education space. We want to be the guide on the side. We want to be the person that facilitates discussions and ideas from everyone. And so I think HuddleUp frees up so much meeting time, because you can kind of share your thinking outside of the meeting. You can share your feedback. So it's a little, you give time and space and a voice to people to be able to share what they know and what they think. And because it's all online, it's all resourced and archived, and there's data attached to it so you don't lose it. And it's a really, I think it can be a very powerful way to help people collaborate and make decisions and be more transparent and inclusive with the way that organizations and teams move forward with their ideas.
Well, that's terrific. Thank you so much, Derek. Let's talk about how people can reach you. I know we have several ways they can reach out to you. Huddle Up Learning is in its development, so it looks like they can email you. You've got a couple of Twitter accounts, and they can, of course, find you on LinkedIn. Are there other ways that you would suggest they reach out to you?
You've got the big ones there for sure. We blog about ed tech and about collaboration and learning and organizational learning, and it's just blog.huddleuplearning.com. So you can read more there about some of the insights. But I think you've hit the big pieces there for sure. And we are excited for where we are right now. We're getting some early traction for sure from some businesses and universities and K-12 schools, and we're looking for partners and people who see value in this kind of a model. And really, I think at the moment I would characterize it as, we don't know what we don't know. It's very early days, and I think there's a lot of creative solutions for a model like this that we just want to get in discussions and talk with people about and hear what are their goals and how might they use this, and those types of conversations, because we're learning a lot every day, to be quite frank. We don't feel like we have this solved. We don't have any magic solution for the best way to use this, because organizations and teams have different goals, and we want to help be a part of those conversations and learn more about how, what are the options and what are the possibilities that we can work with.
So, let's step back from Huddle Up, because I'm really interested to learn more about the platform, and I'll be looking into it offline. However, sure. You as a professional, one of the things I always ask, people who've been there and done that, essentially, you've learned from all the different processes over the decades, like I have. What advice would you give? Because there are a lot of people transitioning from teaching from different industries into the learning and development industry. What advice would you give, say, your younger self, or some of these younger people, or people that are changing careers? What should they look out for, and what should, mantras and things like that should they adopt to succeed?
Yeah, I guess one thing I try to keep in mind all the time is what are the perceptions of the audience when we're in a training mode, when we're in a teaching mode, when we're in that kind of instructional mode, is how relevant is this being received? What would I think if I was out in the audience of this? And I think sometimes we get too wrapped up in being kind of the subject matter expert, and really it's a lot more, especially in today's world. I would say the resources are out there. What we need are, expert facilitators, expert guides to help people utilize the resources that are out there. And that's a different model than when I first started to get into teaching, that I model, or I hadn't had that awareness. And I think looking back, I wished I had noticed that much earlier, that it's really about the pedagogy and setting up environments correctly and kind of creating that culture for people to learn. It's not how much you yourself kind of can bring to the table and dispense on the masses, so to speak.
Well, Derek, thank you so much for joining me today, and I look forward to following and learning more about HuddleUp and following you as an individual. And just really grateful that you took the time today, especially you're on the other side of the planet as far as our local audience is concerned.
Yeah, well, I appreciate the opportunity to share too, Buddy, and I've enjoyed your podcast too with your other guests. It's a good learning tool, and I'm grateful for folks like you for just spreading the word and kind of helping everybody take steps forward. So thank you for the opportunity.
You bet, you bet. And for everyone else watching, if you have any questions about this show, please follow us on our social media that is available on your screen. You can reach us on Facebook, on our LinkedIn account. Of course, you can give us a call or email us at any time. As for Visual Learning Solutions, we provide services such as instructional design, e-learning, instructional course development, and so much more, including video production both here in our studio and out in the field, such as your corporate location or event center. Also, if you wish to host a similar show to this one, we can help, from developing the concept to set and show design, along with full production and marketing of your product. Thank you again for watching, and we hope you will tune in or even consider joining us as a guest on future programs. Please have a wonderful day.